Okay, this is going to be part one of our design principles and elements. I'm going to break this into two different parts for the video so it's not quite so long. You may want to create a graphic organizer of this material or otherwise take notes, but be sure you do have all this information because you are responsible for it. Pause and rewind as needed so you get everything written down. And it's not a bad idea to make some drawings of some of these as you go so that you can really get the right idea. This first part is going to be about the visual elements. Remember, we're going to talk about the elements and the principles. This first part is about the elements. And here's the 6 we're going to talk about. So if you're making a graphic organizer, you're going to want to have 6 places for this. And that's how many we're going to talk about. The first one we're going to talk about are lines. And each kind of lines represents a different type of ideas. Pause for a minute and read through what each one of these says because you are responsible for this. This is basically what most human beings in our society feel when they see these kind of lines. For example, vertical gives us a concept of formality and stability and strength. We can see that here. These buildings have the idea of strength and formality because they have these vertical lines there. Horizontal lines make us feel more calm and peaceful and relaxed. In these, even though there are vertical lines present, it's the long horizontal lines that seem to be really showing up and giving us a less formal feel to these. Diagonal lines provide a feeling of action and movement. If you look at this page with the diagonal lines as compared to this one with horizontal lines, the one with horizontal lines does give us a much more calm feel. For example, the church in the lower right. Here, all these diagonal lines give us the feeling of movement. On here, going up the pyramids, or even in this room where the ceiling is slanted. Curved lines give us a feeling of more movement and more natural shapes. It feels more organic to us. Our next element is color. Notice in these pictures how much color is available there. It gives us a feeling, bright colors make it feel very festive. For example, the St. Basil's Cathedral. It feels very fancy and very festive. Warm colors, like red, orange, and yellow, are making us feel warmer, while the cool colors make us feel more calm and relaxed. Think about the colors that are seen in, for example, fast food versus the colors you would see, say, in a school or a hospital. Which ones are warm and which ones are cool? Here's the exact same picture with different colors on them. Take a minute and just look at each section separately and think about how each section makes you feel. You'll probably notice that the warm colors tend in one direction, while the cooler colors make you feel differently. Imagine each one is in a waiting room for something. Where would you have each one of these, and how would you feel about it? Form and shape were listed together as one of our elements, and basically the most important thing to remember is that shape is 2D and form is 3D. That's the main difference here. But we see often 2D and 3D shapes intermingled within the same design. Here we're seeing forms in these spheres, while here we're seeing the shape of the circle. Because all of our buildings are in 3D, we'll see both of these intermingled. That's why they've put it together. Another idea is space. And if we think about it in a mathematical term, it's the space is all the area we could work in. If we think about it astronomically, we're talking about outer space. But here, when we're talking about architecture and civil engineering, we have different kinds. And each different kind will make you feel differently. For example, open spaces are uncluttered. Cramped are very busy. And then we can also have unused and good use of space. Which kind is illustrated here? That's right, it's an open space concept. Very uncluttered. How about here, in what's probably an eating area? If you're sitting here trying to get work done, you're going to feel a lot of the activity around you as compared to if you were sitting here trying to get some work done. One's going to make you feel much calmer. And then we have texture. Basically, we all know that texture is how something feels. And basically there's two kinds here, smooth and rough. But we don't always go around feeling all the buildings, though we could. So basically what we're looking at is even in a picture, we can tell whether something is smooth or rough depending on how much light is reflected or absorbed. So for example here, even though these are pictures, we get the idea that these are very smooth because we're seeing a lot of light being reflected. Versus here on these, we perceive these as being a rough texture because light doesn't get reflected off of these. And finally, we have value. Value is the lightness and darkness of a color compared to each other. Here we see blue in a continual line. We can think about shade and tint. Shade is the degree of darkness, while tint is a pale or faint variation. Here, even though most of these buildings are in fact blue, we see various values on them, which makes it interesting to the eye. Keep in mind, what color selection are these? Are these all warm or cool? And how do they make you feel? Okay, this concludes our first part of this on our elements. Thank you.